Where do we start, Jason?
Wow. Can I start with what I'm most excited about, oddly enough, which is the new recurrent, and then we kind of just work our way through remote ID and everything else there.
Right.
I had the team prepare some slides and everything else. I'm happy to share with you. Is that a cool way to start?
Yes, but let's start this off with everyone agreeing that this is a good thing. Now, most of the people watching want to follow the rules.
Yes.
I would assume. There are some outliners. There are people who never follow the rules. There are people that will just do what they've always done and hope they don't get caught. But this stuff is continually evolving. This is just the next step. They say this is the final rule, but it's not.
Right.
Because it will have to change as technology evolves. But let's all agree that this is a needed thing, because, and I'll say this again, this is not for you. This is for all the other dumbasses out there. This is for the people that will fly on the White House lawn. These are the people who will fly a drone how high, how far, follow firefighters when they're trying to work.
Right.
Yeah.
You're spot on, Ken. And the funny thing about it is, when you violate the rules, guess what happens? Usually you end up getting more rules. Like, we have these rules because of the rule violators, not because of people like the three of us that follow the rules. And fortunately or unfortunately, the FAA is here to stay. It is not going anywhere. If we want to operate in the airspace, we have to play by these rules. And I would argue the premise that you made is correct, Ken, is that these are actually good things. And I'm going to go out on a limb. Remote ID, when used appropriately, will eventually even be of benefit to us who are playing by the rules. Now, those who are not willing to play by the rules are going to hate remote ID. Companies, I was watching the news earlier, like that, I think it was Black Sage, the Boise drone out of the sky people. You don't have to worry about them because they're not going to have a job after a while with remote ID because of that. So there are benefits to this, and we're going to point out some of those benefits here today. There's 4 or 5 things we need to get through, and they're all huge positives.
All right. Well, for the people out there worried about the FPV community, especially, because there's talk of only being able to fly in AMA fields. But
it's gotten better though.
It has gotten better, and they've done away with the need for internet connection. So that's all good. I still don't think that legislators fully understand how people in our community fly and why we fly, and I still think that they're all doing it for the Jeff Bezos of the world to pave the way for their deliveries of this and that. But I'll say this. This is very much like when horseless carriages first came on the scene. Everybody's like, I don't want those horseless carriages. They're just getting in the way. That's a fad. They'll go away. But then somebody posted a stop sign, right? And everybody that had a horseless carriage that was just running around on the wrong side of the road, doing whatever the hell they want, going however the hell fast they wanted to, eventually the government put in place these rules and guidelines. Drive on this side of the road, stop at intersections, don't go faster than this. And eventually there's no more horses. And that's where we are right now. We're at a point where people still remember what it was like to fly their drone at anywhere, anyhow they wanted to.
Yes.
That's where we are now in history.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's for sure going to be a turning point. And we went through this with manned aviation. As we add technology, they're following a very similar path with this. And I would argue the FAA is even being more flexible than I initially anticipated. I knew beyond visual line of sight is coming, by the way, shortly after this as well. I expected that before kind of what we have here today with over moving vehicles, over people, and ops at night now too. We'll get to all that. But if we can start with the new, I'm calling it the new recurrent test, or lack thereof in a way. Is it okay to start there, Ken?
Yeah, this is part the part of the Part 89 that we're talking about right
Sure.
now.
So this is Part 89. So CFR's Code of Federal Regulations, Part 89, and that is literally a brand new part. If you Google it right now, CFR 89 comes up something from the Food and Drug Administration. There's not a lot of Part 89 stuff out there just yet. We'll take that over eventually here. The recurrent test, as we know it, of Ken, you just did yours. Praise God, you passed. I know how you did it. It took a lot. I was watching your results on remotepilot101.com. You did well, better than last time. Kelly's the superstar. He makes up for your bad scores. But the recurrent test in the next 18 months is going to be going away. And I actually have some verbiage directly from the FAA on that. So with the new recurrent test, this allows your remote pilot certificate applicants to attain the necessary aeronautical knowledge through any number of different methods. This includes self-study, something like remotepilot101.com, enrolling in a training seminar or online course. So this, for those of you, I see it happen in the chat already, my recurrence in a month. You're still going to go to the PSI testing center and take your recurrent as you've always done, or just like you took your initial. The current rollout is 18 months. So most of us watching this, Ken, you might even be close to that. I mean, it was only a few months ago you took yours. So I'm not sure. We have to look at the math on that. You may be one of the first to actually do it this way. In 18 months, they're going to allow you to use approved self-study courses. And you better believe it, Remote Pilot 101 is going to be one of those courses. Again, you have it for life anyways. You'll go through our recurrent course, and Jason will just sign you off and say you're good to go. Rather than you paying more money, studying all that more, you're still gonna have to study and go through the course. Think of it more like CEUs, continuing education units this way. And at the end, I just endorse you, rather than going out and spending the $150 and getting a pass-fail type score. So that is where the new recurrent test is really going to be taking us. And personally, I'm super excited about it. It keeps more money in your pockets that way and allows a service like us with Remote Pilot 101 just to be that much more valuable, and it makes our signature that much more powerful. And Ken, yes, I will even sign you off for it. It may be a liability, but I'm willing to do it for you, buddy.
Thanks, man. And here it is. Here's the discount code. If you're not already part of it, remotepilot101.com. Use Heron18 for 30% off, just like that.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So why is everybody afraid of this? You have a license plate on your car. Why not license plate on your drone?
Well, I totally get it. And let's segue into that topic of remote ID next. And I want to do my best. So I poured into the entire 292 pages. Ken and I spoke this afternoon, and I was still reading through some of the 292 pages. Don't look so excited, Ken. It was really good reading. I geek out on that sort of stuff. And I did my best to break it down into plain English so you understand it. So remote ID is being broken down into really kind of three categories now. The one that most of us are going to fall into is this idea of a standard remote ID. Let's work through it here together then. So the first is a standard remote ID. This is what everyone was most scared about. Broadcast remote ID messages directly from the unmanned aircraft via a radio frequency broadcast. Again, like you said, Ken, it's not finalized because they have words like likely Wi-Fi or Bluetooth technology. They don't even know yet. And the broadcast will be compatible with existing personal wireless devices there as well. Now here is where everyone's been freaking out and where everyone's been getting awfully scared of things as to what are they going to be broadcasting. We use the analogy, it's like a license plate on the car. Well, our license plate doesn't give up all this information. Maybe a Tesla license plate does, I don't know. But this is what your drone's going to be actually broadcasting out. The second bullet point here on this slide. Standard remote ID messages include the unmanned aircraft ID, will probably be the serial number, latitude, longitude, altitude, speed, latitude, longitude, and altitude of the control station, so where you're operating from, emergency status. I don't know how they're going to define that just yet. And then, of course, any timestamps. You were here then, you were here then. So there will be a history. So it's, oh, I didn't bust that airspace. Well, we can go back historically and see where you flew. I get it. It sounds super big brotherish. The reason we have this is if people would stop flying over the Super Bowl, remember deep in the heart of COVID when people were landing in the middle of baseball fields? Remember that, Ken? I think I was on an episode where we shared a few videos. The guy landed a Mavic in the middle of like a baseball game.
Yeah.
And again, we have these rules and we have these things because of the dumb things people have been doing.
Right.
But who is this available to? It's not like Ken and Kelly are just, I mean, Ken's out there just creeping on people, watching where his ex-girlfriends are flying and everything else. Like, that would be beneficial for Ken, creepy for them, if I had to guess. These remote ID messages are only going to be available to, they say, the FAA and local law enforcement and emergency services. So we'll see how true that is. Sorry, go ahead.
They'll be able to tell where the operator is?
Where the operator is, where the drone is, and your history as well. I get it. It's Big Brother-ish. It's creepy. But if you're following the rules, I guess I'm coming from the world of manned aviation, where air traffic control knows where I'm at all times. I'm told to be in this airspace, not in this airspace. I'm told to fly this heading. So my mindset is, this sounds just like air traffic control for drones. And maybe if this is something new to you, it sounds Big Brother-ish, but I've been living this for 2 decades now in manned aviation. So it does. It makes sense. If we want to play in their airspace, we play by their rules.
It makes sense from your point of view, of course. It's going to be a little bit tougher for other people who may have a drone they just bought at the Walmarts and, they just want to take a picture of their roof for some reason. But now, I was reading the summary because I don't have the patience to read 200 and whatever the hell pages. And in the summary, I think it mentions that it won't transmit your location of the operator.
Not to the public. So how it reads is the control station. And the FAA definition of a control station is home base. It is where you're operating. How the verbiage actually reads is longitude, latitude, and altitude of the control station, emergency status, and timestamps there. So we can debate how they deem what a control station actually is, would be the next portion of that.
Okay, and Part 89 will not allow ADS-B to be used.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that. So I thought, you remember when, I guess it would have been the Mavic Enterprise was the first to offer ADS-B where they were receiving ADS-B signals of aircraft. You could look down at the controller and actually see aircraft. I thought, wow, this is cool. This is what they mean with remote ID. And now you're right. I read the clarification a few days ago as well, where they said it's not ADS-B. In fact, any manned aircraft transponders, which are considered Mode C or Mode S technology, are not allowed on there as well. Some people are thinking we're going to install, manned aircraft transponders, but all the air traffic controllers raised their hands and said, hey, our radar scopes are busy enough. I don't need to see every single drone on there as well.
ADS-B leaves it up to the pilot in control to maneuver away from any obstacle, and that would kind of be a moot point for what they want, a passive system that's available to authorities and you won't be able to disable this, apparently.
Right.
Well, people will, though. They will.
Hey, I've seen people put tinfoil over their drones to fly in stupid spaces and everything else. And there's rules out there for those sort of people as well. There's rules for all of them.
Yeah.
Right. The interesting point this brings up, though, Ken, is, okay, that's all well and good. This is coming out in the next, they say 18 to 30 months is long. 30 months seems like a random time frame, but that's what they're kind of pushing that this comes out. So DJI released a statement, and DJI's obviously has bigger things they're trying to, the marketing department is trying to squash right now with what we spoke about last week with Blacklist and everything else. But DJI came out and said, we are embracing this. We're excited about this, and we will have the manufacturing ready to go. Which brings up the next question of, hey, I spent $6,000 on my Inspire 2, with the killer camera and everything else. I don't want to stop flying my Inspire 2. It's still a phenomenal drone. What do I do with this legacy equipment? Which brings us into part 2 of remote ID, which is a remote broadcast module. So entrepreneurs out there, listen up, because the FAA is literally, and they actually publish in part 89, the manufacturer guidelines, looking for individuals or companies to produce this remote ID remote broadcast module. And I have an interesting slide I want to share with you here real quick. So this broadcast module it can be a separate device that's attached to the unmanned aircraft, or it can be a feature. DJI will make it a feature. A savvy entrepreneur watching this, who's an engineer, could make it a retrofit. I want to catch your attention, though, to the underlying bullet point number 4 there, though. The unmanned aircraft remotely identifying with a broadcast module must be operated within visual line of sight at all times. Where I don't, and I don't know everything, and what I don't know here just yet is, what if I have a waiver for beyond visual line of sight? But I'm going to use my Inspire 2 with this remote broadcast module. How do I work that into? My remote ID says I can't do that. My waiver says I can do this, and it's a clash of worlds there. So again, like you said, this is not a final rule. We're going to have some guidance on that as well. But just be aware that that is a limitation. And I'm telling you, beyond visual line of sight is going to come much easier than a waiver in the next, I'd hope, in 2021.
Yeah, it seems like this is going to continually evolve as real world situations dictate what they can and cannot do. Now, as far as hobbyists are concerned, and I know that there are a lot that are concerned, it seems to me like they're discouraging hobbyists from existing at all. They want everybody to pretty much become Part 107, and it couldn't hurt to give yourself more knowledge.
Right.
But some people are not going to be any more than casual drone pilots, and for those people, there are some differences now, right?
Yeah, you're spot on. This is also what the FPV community was so worried about with that. So it actually helps me segue perfectly into the 3rd level of remote ID, which is a new acronym for you, Ken. An FAA recognized identification area. I believe that'd be a FRIA. I don't know what yeah, exactly. It is a geographic area recognized by the FAA where unmanned aircraft not equipped with remote ID are allowed to fly. They're going to allow in the next 18 months these organizations to apply for it, but they are primary and secondary educational institutions, trade schools, colleges, universities. You must operate within line of sight, yada, yada, yada. And it goes on with these approvals that you need to seek. Now, what does this mean for the FPV community? What does this mean for the race community? What does this mean for the simple hobbyist? They don't have to go to their local college and ask their local college to set this sort of thing up. It's still not great. I mean, the ultimate solution, and this is not coming from a guy who makes a living helping people prepare for FAA tests. This is just speaking from the heart, business aside. It would behoove you, Kelly, that means benefit. He's in Kentucky, I understand. It would benefit you to just earn your Part 107 at the end of the day with it. Whether you plan on using it for commercial operations or not, that would be the greatest benefit, is to earn your Part 107, especially now knowing that the recurrent test is going away. One test, get it done, and I can just recert with Jason doing the course every 24 calendar months. Less scary now.
As time goes on, authorities will become more knowledgeable as to all this stuff. You're going to have your card with you to present.
You should now. Yes.
Yeah, to present to any authority. I've never, since August of 2016, been asked by any authority to show my Part 107 card. But I think that will change.
You did mention you used it the other week at the bar.
That was to pick up ladies. Yeah, because chicks love drone pilots. Duh. Yes. Everybody knows that. Sometimes I'll just carry my FPV backpack into a bar, be like, that's right, I can fly this thing. And women swoon, you know. I get my pockets stuffed with phone numbers. You know how it is. But now, just on a serious note, we mentioned the FPV community, of which I'm a proud part now.
Yes.
I now understand better than I ever did the way FPV people see the world, and they do not fly like camera drones. They do not fly like fixed wing. They like to shoot gaps and dive buildings and go in places that aren't a specified field where you can just fly. And that's where the disconnect is as far as authorities and legislators. It's because these, I hesitate to use an adjective, I won't. These legislators that are making these rules don't get it. Somebody needs to slap some goggles on them and let them get it, because putting FPV people in a wide open field. That's not why we fly. That's not why.
Right.
It's not so we can fly like a bird. It's so that we can almost die each and every second we're flying the thing. And that's the awesomeness that is being missed by legislators. And unfortunately, I don't think that's going to change. And if it does, it'll take a long time. So, how does this affect that kind of flying for the FPV community? Because I think even if they said, okay, 300 feet and below, you guys can do whatever the hell you want. Because where FPV people fly, there's never going to be any manned aircraft. There's never going to be a delivery drone. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. And the FPV community will be the pirates. They will be the holdouts. Even if you can put a module on, even if the module doesn't weigh that much and doesn't affect the flight characteristics of your build, it will still not be embraced by the FPV community. Your thoughts?
No, I totally get it, and you're spot on. That's exactly where the FPV community flies, is these abandoned warehouse, super cool places. I mean, Ken, you hardly ever get over 100 feet, AGL anyways. It's sad because they're going to be hurt so bad by this now. So we can go earn our 107, great. We can add this module, but FPV flying is all about how light can we make it, how, making sure the CG is right, weight and balance is right. And it's a build, essentially. So we have to build it right. And yes, if they make the technology light enough, maybe it can be embraced. What does this mean for the race community? Does this limit us to indoor races and gymnasiums now, rather than the traditional outdoor races through parks and stuff that we're used to? If somebody is going to get hurt by remote ID, it's going to be the FPV community, unfortunately, and but being a pirate, Ken, is not the answer to it. Being a pirate only creates more rules and regulations. It's how can we get a legislator that knows and understands FPV drone flying at a higher level to bring this in front of the eyeballs that actually make those decisions? And that's where we need to use our piracy and turn it into creativity instead.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna try to quell the worries of people who are just adamantly against anything that the government does, and is just worried. Oh, the FAA is screwing everything up. This is a fluid process. It says final rule, but it's not. And let me give you an example in history. And Kelly, you can help me out with this. Do you remember when the FCC required everybody to have a license in order to go on and broadcast on FM radio stations?
Yes.
When you and I started, we had to get that from the FCC, which is a federal agency.
And you didn't have to take a test, but you had to have a license.
Right. You had to know how to take readings from the transmitter and all this other stuff. Well, now any old schmuck can just come in off the street and step up to the mic and go, hey, I'm a radio guy now. So,
And you see what kind of shape radio's in.
Yeah, well, at some point, it becomes a hindrance to the government agency to keep having to do this. Kelly, why do you think the FCC stopped doing that? Was it a matter of convenience for themselves? That's what I think. I think that it got too prohibitive to keep doing that.
I would agree with that. They had bigger fish to fry. They had other more. Their priorities changed.
Right. It cost too much. They couldn't keep paying the people that needed to keep track of that. So
right.
I think the same thing will happen with this, because the skies will be filled. Everybody watching right now is into this in one way or another. FPV, fixed wing, you love just getting up and flying whatever you like to fly. It's exciting, but at some point, and I've had friends who for a year were like, yeah, this is great. And then like Gary, remember Gary? Gary's like, in every one of my videos, like Gary, he lost interest. So a segment of the public will lose interest in the flying things.
But don't you think charging people for the test is a good thing? Because I guess it separates the serious people from the not so serious people. If you're not charged anything, you take the test over and over and over and over and over until you finally get your license.
True, but I think the thought there is that the government is trading money for education. That you get more educated people. There's people that want to take the test but can't afford it, but still want to fly. So if you have better educated, am I right, Jason? If you have better educated pilots out there, you're going to have less dumbasses that are going to be flying anywhere the hell they want.
You're spot on. And if you read, Ken, the 292-page rule, they share a lot of the comments in there as well. Some people wanted 12 months of training. Some people wanted to require a flying portion. In manned aviation, we have a written test and then an actual, obviously, a flying portion. They wanted to have, if you got above an 80% on your initial test, you would never have to take a recurrent test again. There were all these different things they're trying to work through. And Kelly, you're spot on. At the end of the day, our motto as a good pilot is always learning. Our mission is to create safer, smarter pilots. Knowledge is such a fluid thing, and you may never even know about remote ID if you chose to earn your certificate and stop learning. And you'd be out there breaking the rules and not even know about it. That is why there has to be some sort of recurrent training. Why does a nurse, why does a lawyer, why does a doctor have continuing education units they have to do? Ken, the lady who cuts your hair, and I've seen her on your YouTube channel, very nice lady, she has to do CEUs. I mean, it's beautiful hair. It's clear she does hers. But you understand, it takes CEUs even to maintain your, as a professional like that.
So once all this gets locked in, 18 to 30 months from now, and the rules are set and remote ID is in place, how are the rules enforced, or who enforces the rules? If somebody violates the rules, how will the government or the FAA crack the whip? Specifically, bringing it down to ground level here, how will they enforce them?
Look at it. They're going to try. And I think they're doing the best they can. Look at the state of even Part 107. There are certain pilots out there that post videos on YouTube that they should not post on YouTube, and they get millions of nasty letters and $182,000 worth of fines. Look at the kid who early on in Part 107 flew his Phantom 3 into the Marine or Army helicopter over the Hudson corridor. And these people get fines and slaps on the wrist. Then you find that the fines went away, or it was just that slap on the wrist. Even Part 107 is not being as enforced as it perhaps should be. This is going to take so much time to do. And Kelly, it's such a fluid situation. This is going to pivot. I find it very funny that instead of changing Part 107, and we did change some things in Part 107, they just said, let's call it Part 89 now. And there's 107, there's 89, they work together this way. And it's just like, I feel like we're throwing things against a wall a little bit. Let's just call it a whole new part. That way it doesn't contradict anything in 107. It's its own thing. And that allows them to kind of be fluid with it, and then eventually they'll mesh them together somehow. Yes, in 18 to 30 months, it'll be final until there's a revision or an update again.
Everybody knows that I'm an advocate for safe flying. Now, I like to push the envelope. I like to walk up right to the razor's edge and peek over. That's bad stuff over there. Probably shouldn't do that. I'm back over here. But I found some video today of a flight that I made. Kelly, you'll remember this, that makes me cringe. I'll play a little bit of it. This is from June 2016. This is a couple months before Part 107 went into effect. And I watched this, and I cringe because I would never fly like this now. And it's only because of my experience, not my experience in skill with the drone, my experience in real world, what could happen, and the knowledge that I got from I'm going to share this. This will make a couple people sweat. This is me.
Hi everybody. There are a lot of wires here that I have to avoid.
Do you remember this? This is the parade in Paris, Tennessee. It's the world's biggest fish fry. This is 2016, and I'm sitting on the van.
Thousands of people,
right? And I'll just fly over it, but it doesn't matter. Wait, it gets worse. Hang on. Well, there's wires. I'm I'm so close. I'm blowing people's hats off.
Flying over Cub Scouts.
Over little kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's why I have filmed in June 2016 in the top left corner, in case anybody just sees this part of the video. But, and I had...
That is a moving vehicle.
That is a moving vehicle. For sure. A mooing vehicle.
Yeah, mooing vehicle.
Now
right.
watch. This is the part that gives me the heebie-jeebies now. Look at this. This is a Phantom 4.
All the kids, Ken.
I know, right? Look,
Oh,
wait, it gets
that
better.
lady.
Look at this. Look. I'm like a foot over their heads. Isn't that crazy? Crazy.
Yeah.
You may now hold the record for breaking the most rules in one flight.
Through the bubble.
That's accurate.
I wanted to fly through the bubbles these kids are making. So, okay, I'll just fly right over their heads.
Goodness gracious.
I know, it's crazy,
His hand
right?
almost hit it.
Yeah. Like, I'll take off my own head. There we go. So,
You looked young in that video.
whew. My hair gets grayer every year. I get a little fatter, whatever. Time moves on. Yeah, we can't all be 32 and golden like you. But yeah, so that's the way I think everybody was flying back before the part
That was
part
the Wild
107.
West. People want to bring the Wild West back. There's no bringing the Wild West back.
No, that'll never happen again. So if there's any, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be ignoring the chat. Kelly, please, if there's anybody that has any questions for Jason in the chat, Kelly, would you grab those questions for him?
Yep.
Now, I had a question here from last week that somebody posted from Sunrise Water Media. Would you ask Jason this question, please? If I borrow a drone for one day for business use and I have my 107 certification, do I need to register it even if it's by registered by someone else?
Wow, what a good question.
Yeah.
My argument would be the drone is registered. Do I have permission from that person it's registered by to be operating that drone? And do I have my 107? My vote would be it's okay to use that. But I would go above and beyond and say, hey, can you just give me some written permission? Jason Shepard has permission to fly my Mavic 2, serial number, blah, 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 today.
Yeah,
Fine.
because you have to assume that it's going to drop right down through the sunroof of a Lamborghini and take off the person's head. Worst case
You're
scenario.
spot on.
Yeah.
You're spot on.
Yeah. So, do we have any questions, Kelly? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just real quick. TJ in the chat. Will those of us that have our 107.29 daylight waiver lose it under the new rules?
Ooh, great question.
Really great question. Wow. I don't know if you're going to lose it per se, but you're not going to need it actually here. With night operations changing, and Magda, if we can show the slide for him too here, I'll share with you real quick just to read it for you, TJ, here. Remote pilots in command who wish to conduct small unmanned aircraft operations at night must complete either the updated initial test. So TJ, what does that mean for your waiver? We'll get to that. Or the updated recurrent online training prior to conducting such operations. Now, let me stop there for a second. This is because the new initial test is going to have night operations questions in it. And the new recurrent is going to have the same night operations education in it. So my bet would be, TJ, your daylight waiver is good for the next, let's call it 18 months, saying that they're working on schedule. And then, TJ, you're going to need to make the switch and hop in Remote Pilot 101 and knock out our night portion of the course and knock out the rest of the recurrent course to recertify, get Jason's signature, and then you'll be good to go from there. So, and then of course the additional rules from there, basically use your Loom Cube, 3 statute miles, same rules we've been dealing with at the hobbyist level the entire time. Just now, Part 107 can enjoy that.
And it's sad that you had to jump through so many hoops to get the daytime waiver, and then and then the government's like, whatever, because remember before Part 107, I had actually applied for, what was it, 336?
333. No, 333.
333. That's right. And I applied. I've been waiting, and then they're like, "Nah, 107 now." Like,
Yeah.
So, but that's the government for you.
Idaho quadcopter in the chat. Jason, will drones with integrated remote ID be able to legally fly beyond visual line of sight?
As it stands right now, no. But from my insider scoop and knowledge that is coming, I thought that this rulemaking was going to be beyond visual line of sight. I didn't expect flight over people night operations, honestly. Beyond visual line of sight, from everybody I've spoken to who's deep in the industry on these rulemaking committees, beyond visual line of sight is coming. You're going to need remote ID. You're going to need your 107, just like you will for over people, over moving vehicles, and night operations like that. So yes, that is all coming. You'll be able to use any of the 3 forms of remote ID that we spoke about earlier.
So what are these category 1, category 2 eligibility things? Do you have any?
Let me read to you. Let's go to a fun one here. Let me read to you category 2, Ken. I'd like to hear your interpretation of it. You ready?
Yes, please.
Let me put on my professor voice.
Okay.
Small unmanned aircraft must not cause injury to a human being that is equivalent to or greater than the severity of injury caused by a transfer of an 11 foot-pounds of kinetic energy upon impact of a rigid object, and does not contain any exposed rotating parts that could lacerate human skin upon impact with a human being, and does not contain any safety defects. What, 11 foot-pounds of kinetic energy? Like, I'm not that handy, but I don't think I have anything in my toolbox that measures that.
So we'll have to have our slide rules.
Yeah, we have our E6B flight computers and slide rules and everything else. It sounds like, just being honest with you, I don't totally understand what these category goals are.
I do.
Where I imagine. Go ahead, Kenneth.
These are specifically for Amazon and UPS. That's what it is. That's what these. We don't have to worry about this. This is stuff.
Yeah.
And I always say when the tube socks are being delivered, this is the Amazon provision. That's what this is. And
it very well could be, because I don't understand what 11 foot-pounds of kinetic energy looks or feels like. You know, maybe it's the 2-pounders that you guys give each other. I think
the 11 foot-pounds of energy is delivered by a falling new Xbox out of the sky. I think that's what that is. Let me mention this in category 1 as the freaking train goes by here. So in order to fly over people, you have to do it with a ducted drone with no exposed propellers. That's what I'm seeing here.
If you want to call it category 1, category 1 is less than 0.55, including everything on board, and contained no exposed rotating parts. Ducted. I doubt prop guards are going to fit in this category, because you can still hurt yourself with a prop guard. Even it's probably going to have to be ducted, if I had to guess. Anything that would lacerate human skin. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. Would your Mavic Mini lacerate your skin? I don't know.
There's a morning show going on in my head all the time, and whenever I hear spinning parts, I think of Trixie down at the dance club with the pasties. That's just what came in my mind. I had to share. Maybe it's oversharing, but I'm sorry. Good old Trixie. Is there anybody?
How is Trixie? Is Trixie doing all right? She's still working down there full time.
Well, you know, she's putting her grandkids through college. She's been there a while.
They're spinning a lot lower than they used to.
She's been there a while. They used to hit her in the face. Now they hit her knees. All right. Woo!
Oh, Trixie.
All right, sorry. I know we have an all-male audience and a few girlfriends that have been forced to watch. But anyway, I didn't mean to derail things. Jason, do you have any more slides for us?
I think that falls into category 4. Trixie's in category 4. That is the 25 pounds of kinetic energy.
Oh man, does she? Oh. Okay. So, all right. So if we want to fly at night, will hobbyists be able to benefit from this stuff, or is it all gonna stem from Part 107?
They currently can. They could before us 107 guys and gals. So, but where does that now fit with remote ID? That is why I find it so strange. We have 107 and Part 89 now. They should have thrown everything into there. I'm telling you, like I explained to Kelly earlier, we're throwing a bunch of things against the wall, and we're seeing what actually is going to end up sticking here. That's what it really comes down to. Hobbyists, you can fly at night now if you wanted to. Part 107 guys and gals, we had to jump through every single hoop to get a daylight waiver. And now, like you said, the FAA, just go do it. But what does that mean for the hobbyists without remote ID? I think they're going to get the short end of the stick. I'm telling you, again, this is not business Jason speaking. This is just aviation enthusiast speaking. Earn your Part 107. especially now with the recurrent tests going away. Get the initial tests done, and just let me sign you off every 24 calendar months for the recurrent test. That's going to be the easiest way to do it. And that's not a sales pitch, but thank you for the promo code, Ken.
There you go, man.
How will this change for a licensed commercial pilot? And I'll use myself as an example. I'm a real estate guy. I drone acreage and houses. How will this change my workflow? When I'm out in the field about to launch, what will I do differently, if anything?
I don't believe you're going to do much anything differently. Remote ID is going to work silently in the background. If anything, if it's aftermarket, it's something you'll probably have to turn on and make sure it's activated. I would imagine it would communicate with the software well enough to know that you're not flying unless you turn this thing on and they're talking to one another, and that's communicating. We buy a DJI drone in the next 18 to 30 months. Once this is mainstream, maybe this is the Phantom 5 we've always been waiting for, right? It'll come out with remote ID as a feature, and it'll just be built in, integrated, and you won't even know it's happening in the background.
So just to be sure, let's reiterate a few things. Remote ID won't be available to the general public, right?
They will not have access to it. Ken will not be able to look at Trixie or any old girlfriends for that matter, and where they're flying. It's
essentially like a license plate on a car now. If somebody cuts you off, you write their license plate down, and then you tell the authorities, and they look it up.
Yes, but this license plate does provide some historical data. And that is, again, if you're following the rules, who cares? But if you're going to go fly through a TFR and try to say, no, that wasn't me, okay, let me see the timestamps. And they're going to see your entire flight track. If you go look at any of my manned aircraft and you type in their tail number, 23 Mike Zulu is one of my tail numbers. This little airplane right here. You go type that in. You can see all my flight history of everywhere I've been, and where I'm even scheduled to go. That's just how the system works. It's a safety feature, it's a search and rescue feature, and it's a hey, did Jason bust some airspace feature as well. But that's why you just have to follow the rules.
By the way, Trixie has a tail number tattooed on her. It used to say Zima 1 Lima Zulu, but as she ages, it just says Zima. You know how that goes.
Your phonetic alphabet is strong, Ken. You're good.
Can we do a couple more questions?
Yes,
in the chat?
please. Yes.
If your 107 expires in 18 months, what should we do at this point?
Wow. It's going to be a wait and see kind of game. Please know that we're always on top of that. We're starting to refilm the course. It's funny, we just released the new version of the course 2 weeks ago. Now I got to update some videos. So we're going back and updating the videos to add the night components to it. It's going to benefit you to go through it, be prepared to take the test, but perhaps you don't have to. Again, the window the FAA is given is 18 at the fastest, 30 at the slowest. It's the government. Ken, I don't know if you can cue the government music, but it's the government at the end of the day.
I tell you what, I don't want the government up in my business. I'm just minding my own business there in Louisiana. We got all of Ellie Mae in the backyard with a 3-piece on. You thought it was only 2 pieces. It's 3 pieces here in Louisiana. That's like drone magnets. People want to come in. Oh, it's all Ellie Mae. Let's zoom in our zoom lenses.
Closer to 30 months, Kelly.
Yeah.
And one more question in the chat. No one is saying anything about who the FAA is going to allow to enforce their rules.
Well, as it is now, nobody gets in trouble unless somebody reports somebody, and then the FAA will follow it up. They don't have a police force.
Right. It does say, let me go find the exact verbiage here. Standard remote ID will be available to the FAA and authorized law enforcement and national security personnel, I'm down over here, upon request. So it doesn't even sound like a police officer just driving down their squad can head over and say, oh, let me pull up that drone data. It sounds like upon request, they're going to have to figure out who that was, serial number, whatever, to go pull that historical data. But just the FAA is going to have this for the most part, it sounds like.
And
Gotcha.
as far as retrofitting stuff that we already have and manufacturers getting up in line, they're talking 2023 until.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah. So
I meant what I said earlier. If there is a engineer or a capitalist watching this, or someone who wants an amazing new industry segment in the drones, it's going to be retrofitting old drones with remote ID. And in Part 89, and you can just go find the summary. In there, it actually gives manufacturer specifications on the general rules of what they want to and what they're going to expect from these manufacturers for remote ID. It's not a ton of guidance, but it'd be enough to kind of get you thinking and get you started for the entrepreneurial inclined watching this.
Yeah, and for those, and I tease Louisiana, I tease Louisiana. I have friends down there. But for those who hate the government and think this is overstepping, it really, honestly, isn't. The FAA is not out to get you. They're out to get the dumbasses. Yes, they will go after the dumbasses.
Yeah, if I can add one thing to this too. This is going to unlock so many new possibilities and opportunities, because the biggest thing is the FAA wants to know where we're flying and how we're using drones. Because I think even the FAA doesn't totally understand it. Certainly our local legislators don't understand it. This is going to open up more airspace and more opportunities for us. I know it's going to open up package delivery and everything else too. But for the rule followers, I truly believe we'll be talking, Ken, again in 2023. You'll have even more gray hair by then. In 2023, this airspace we'll be talking about an expanding airspace rather than a contracting airspace. Mark my word on it, assuming we all continue to play so nicely by the rules.
Yeah.
I don't know how much time we have, but there's some great questions coming in the chat. You got time for a couple more or no?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Okay. Doc Murdoch, how is the remote ID going to record this info and where? As I read this, there is no provision to record this info, especially for the module.
Yeah, that's the interesting part. So, Doc, remember, in the original proposal for rulemaking, they were going to require us to have basically an internet connection or LTE. And everyone's raising their hands going, I fly in remote areas. I don't always have LTE or service. I can't be in charge of the connectivity. Everything this says is we're not in charge of the connectivity now. Go ahead, Kelly.
And one more.
Well, hold on. Let me go along those lines. What if because you're not going to be able to take off without the gizmo. And once the gizmo tells the drone it's okay to take off and you take off, what if you lose GPS, as will often happen? What if
it absolutely happens.
What happens then? Do you get penalized?
Those are answers I don't know. I mean, literally in the final rule, it says this technology will likely work over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. I don't even think the FAA knows.
Yeah.
I think they're proposing things and holding their hands out to the engineers and saying, we proposed it, now go make it. This doesn't exist yet in this current form. That is why I thought originally, I think last year I said, remote ID will probably be ADS-B. I said on one of your shows, and now they said it's not going to be. Only because ADS-B, that technology already exists. I don't think the remote ID technology is even in beta yet with that.
Yeah,
Kelly,
you got another question?
And Clearline Quadrants, thoughts about buying a new drone now, or should we wait?
Again, it's 18 to 30 months. I'm very impatient. There's great technology coming out now. I think there's going to be great retrofits.
Yep.
18 to 30 months. I'm going to buy something now and want something new in 30 months anyways. How many drones did you buy in 2020?
Yeah, don't worry about that. If you're looking for an excuse to not buy a drone, this isn't it. I would worry more about your wife worrying about your budget. I get emails all the time. My wife's pissed off at me. I bought another drone. Oh, hell with you, Ken. So, in conclusion, this is nothing really to freak out about just yet. The FAA has shown us that they can be reasonable, and that they might have actually listened to all the letters and things that we sent them, and many people have. But this is, we are on the edge of the interstate system in the sky. That's what this is. This is, we are almost the Jetsons. That's where we are right now with this. You go to the DMV every whatever, and you renew your license and you obey all the traffic laws in your car most of the time. I mean, sometimes I'll exceed the speed limit, but but don't do like I do. But that's essentially what it is. And there are roads in the sky. There's an app, and this is very interesting. There's an app, I forget what it's called. Jason, maybe you know what it is, where you can pull up a screen and see all of the commercial air traffic flying in real time. It is wild to see.
it's flightaware.com is one of them. And literally, you go put my airplane in there, 23 Mike Zulu. You'll see exactly where I've been, what I've been up to, and when I'm scheduled. It's funny. We're in manned aviation. If we schedule we're going to somewhere, we'll have people meet us at the airport because they knew we were going to be there because we scheduled that.
Somebody in the chat has already done that.
Yeah,
They've already
did.
found out where your plane is right now.
It's at the Lantana Airport in South Florida because it's way too cold where you guys are.
That's what they said in the chat.
Yeah, but the skies are already filled with and there's already a highway system up there now.
Absolutely, at higher altitudes, yes.
Yes, and that's what they're doing with all of us now. So, sorry, that's just the world in which we live.
The grumpy vlogger in the chat says the government proposed it, the engineers will design it, and the rest of us will have to fix it.
There you go. Well put, sir. Awesome. Jason, thank you so much for being on. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure. Kelly, great to see your smiling face again. Ken, you're just dapper and handsome as always.
Get out of here.
What else can you say?
And don't forget, remotepilot101.com. Use Heron18 to sign up. I imagine you're going to have a whole bunch of new customers here soon.
Yes, thank you.